to begin with, I want to talk about what kind of tech interviews are there, what kind of companies are there to begin with. So I would say there are mainly two type of companies. One is a service-based company, and uh, other is a product-based company. So first of all, like we see a mad rush going towards like product-based companies. We see people blindly following that we want to get into product-based company without actually knowing what is the difference between these two companies. So to quickly talk about the most basic difference is that service-based companies are those companies which are actually creating tools and services for a different company. Okay, those are there. So for example, let's suppose SBI needs some product. So they will reach out to these companies and they'll say that I want you to give me this small feature, small system, and I want you to create that. So these service-based companies, they create their product and then they deliver it to their clients. For example, let's say Lufthansa is a company and it wants an app which can be specifically used by their pilots. So Lufthansa will reach out to service-based company and get the products created, get the system created, and that system can be delivered by these companies. So service-based companies are regularly delivering products one after the other, and they have a lot of clients and they create products for them. Now, a product-based company has one product and they will keep on reiterating. They will be keep on working to get the best out of that product. So that is the difference between a service-based company or a product-based company. For example, if I talk about Amazon, Amazon engineers are working on that one singular product, which is Amazon. And similarly, if I talk about Scalar is also a company which is working on one product, right? Scalar has one product, and all the engineers are working to improve that product. So, right, Scalar is also a product-based company. Along with that, Amazon is also a product-based company. The only difference would be scale on which people are working on it. Amazon, there is a greater scale, and at Scalar, you would slowly and steadily go through all the processes, and it's still in the growing phase. So there are two kinds of product-based company. One is a big corporate, and other are you can say fast-growing startups or the companies who are growing, but right now they are working at a at a scale less than the big corporates. Okay, so perfect. Right. Let me just put it this way. Okay, just give me a moment. So, given that we now understand what is the basic difference between the service-based and product-based company, now the next thing that I want to talk about is what differentiates between like service-based company and product-based company. Why do people prefer going into a product-based company, right? So there are majorly two major parameters why somebody would prefer a product-based company more than a service-based company. So one is the work that we do over there. So in a service-based company, you would be continuously iterating over different projects, right? You have just completed one project, then you would be shifted to another project. Like there are a lot of clients that they're catering to. So if you have closed one project, you will be quickly moved on to other project, and you would not have a great learning curve. Like you would be continuously switching between different projects. And apart from that, like there would be a lot of ready-made products. So like you would have payment gateways that would be already built in, that would be already ready. There would be a lot of components that would be already ready. So most of the time what you are doing is you are stitching all these things together and delivering to a client, right? Whereas in a product based company, you will slowly and steadily try and see that the same product is built iteratively. You would work on interesting problems to solve, interesting problems that are yet to be solved. You will pick up those problems and you will work on scale, right? You will see that the same product is growing with scale, more and more users are coming, and you would see that a lot of problems come with scale. So you would have to deal with that. So in dealing with these problems, you come across quality problems. So that is one major difference, the work we do. What we do is one major difference why people try to they try to go towards product based company. Second is the return that we get. By return I mean like return could be anything, right? Like it could be skills and it could be the salary also. So with skill also you would get some better skills since you are working on better problems, since you are working on scaled problems. So you would be requiring greater skills to solve them. So in return to working on quality problems, you would get better skills. And the second thing is because your time is so valued, because you are working on a product. So if I'm creating anything in a product, right? For example, let's suppose I'm creating anything in Scalar. So that part would live, right? The shelf life of that part that I've created would would basically live on for next 4 or 5 years. Whereas if I have created a product for a client in a service-based company, so it would not be that long. I've created a product. I just have to make sure that it gets delivered to the client successfully, right? So over here, my time and my efforts would be valued more. In product-based company, my efforts would be valued more. My time would be valued more. So that's why the salary that we get in return, that is also most of the times it is more, right? So this is why we prefer to go in product-based company. Now, once you have understood what is the kind of companies that we interview, what are the kind of companies that come. So now let's talk about what are the type of questions that are asked, what are the type of skills that are required to get in a product-based company. So if I talk about the skills, basically I would first divide product-based company into two parts. One is a big corporate, like for example Microsoft or Amazon or Facebook or these companies. Then there would be startups, right? For example, if I talk about QMath or if I talk about Scalar or like these companies that we have, right? So the major difference between these two companies is that a big corporate have like they have time to train their resources, right? So basically, when we are going for an interview in a big corporate, they would basically be talking about problem solving skills and how do you design a product. So they would be mostly talking about your design skills. They will mostly be talking about your problem solving skills, right? Mostly they focus on these things. They would not be so much interested in knowing what tech stack you have already worked. They would not be so much interested in knowing what problems you already have solved or like what projects you've already implemented. They would be more interested in knowing if you have the right aptitude to solve the scaled problem, right? Right. So that is the major thing that is tested in big corporates. If I talk about startups, startups would basically need a person who doesn't need training, right? Who can start contributing right from the word go. So as soon as we say that, let's say that in a startup we are hiring for a person who can add backend functionalities. I am hiring a backend developer, and let's suppose the backend tech stack that I have is Ruby on Rails. So I would be specifically hiring a Ruby on Rails developer, right? We want somebody who can contribute from the word go. We don't have so much time to invest. Like for example, there is a small team in a startup. Let's suppose there are 4 or 5 people. So in that we cannot keep 2 people or 1 people just on the part to do the training purpose or to understand the product. We cannot have that time and we cannot have that bandwidth. Okay, so you need to contribute from the word go. So that's why it's more necessary to hire somebody who is ready with the skills. So for example, the skills could be web development, or it could be Android, or it could be data analysis, or it could be data science. You have to make sure that you are ready with the skills and you would be able to contribute from the word go. So if I talk about a big corporate or a startup, so based on the type of skills that they need, it depends on the type of interviews that would happen, right? For example, if I talk about DSA, and if I talk about in a big corporate, they would mostly be talking about DSA, they would mostly be talking about design skills, right? These are the two things that they would be needing. These are the two subjects that you would be needing to test your design skills and your problem solving skills, right? Whereas when I'm talking about a startup, they would mostly be interested on the project that you've already worked upon, right? So these are the two things that you would be majorly focusing upon, right? So, right. So your interview preparation should also revolve around these two things itself, right? Just a second. Right. Just a second. Okay. Perfect. So your interview preparation should also revolve around these two projects, these two things only. Like for example, if you are going for your interviews, so you must make sure that you are well versed with DSA, right? So let me write about the interview prep part. So how would you be preparing? What should be the interview prep, right? So over here, I would say, right. So over here, I would say that first of all, if we are talking about DSA, so in DSA, in the problem solving part, you should make sure that you are well versed with everything that is there. So you should well versed with at least all the data structures and algorithms that are commonly asked. And right, so there are around 10 to 15 topics that we have in data structures and algorithms. So make sure that you solve at least 5 to 6 questions on each and every data structures and algorithms. You are at least in touch with all the data structures and algorithms. The most important thing that we generally deal is that we lack problem solving skills, and it is not because that we are not prepared or anything. It's because we are not dealing with data structures and algorithms day to day in our work life. So that's one major reason. So I would definitely say that you must be prepared for this part. And by preparing, I mean to say that you should have at least 10, 15. There are 10, 15 data structures and algorithms. So in every 10, 15 data structures and algorithms, you should have 5 or 6 questions with which you would be able to understand pros and cons of that data structure. Along with that, you should understand how to talk about time and space complexity analysis. That's an important thing. You should be able to analyze different algorithms, different approaches on the basis of time and space, right? Along with that, if I talk about the design part, so in the design part, you should for example, over here on the design part, you should come up with the designs. You should prepare with at least 7 to 8 design problems. For example, one of the learners that we have at Scalar, he recently gave an interview at PhonePe, and at PhonePe they asked him to design splitwise. So they asked him to. This was the machine coding round, so he had to basically give a small MBA, MVP. So there was a small like a minimum viable product he had to give. So splitwise, with the minimum features, he had to code splitwise. So these kind of design problems, I would say there are 7 to 8 design problems that you can focus on. And with the help of these 7 to 8 design problems, you would be able to see what are the different design patterns that can be applied, what are the different ways in which things can be solved, right? What are the different pros and cons that we have to look into? What are the analysis that we have to do whenever we are making a decision on what thing to take on and what to be left? Okay, so I think there are 7 to 8 questions that you can look into. And if I talk about the resources that you can look into to prepare for them, I would say Lead Code is one resource from where you can prepare DSA. Apart from that, obviously interview bit is another place from where you can prepare good questions, right? Everything is categorized over there, and you would be able to understand great you would be able to see that great categorization, and you would be able to grow along with that questions, and you would become better at problem solving along the way. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about design questions, there is one website which is called Work at Tech. So this is one place from where you can see the design questions, and you would be able to understand most of the questions that are asked in interviews. So apart from these two things, one more thing, if I talk about, is the previous projects that you have worked upon. So all the previous the projects that you have worked upon, I would say be sure about them. Make sure that you understand them, and you do not fumble, or you do not know. Like, it should not be that you do not know about a particular component in a particular project. So be sure about them. Be make sure that you understand all the nitty-gritties of the projects that you have made. Okay, so these would be the three things that would be involved in the preparation phase. So I would say design, DSA, and projects. These will be three things that you should work upon to be perfectly prepared for the interviews. Apart from that, one more thing that we have seen is mock interviews is another thing that you can that can basically greatly help you. It can augment your preparation. So mock interviews is something that can help you specifically work on the places where you are a little weak. Okay, so I would definitely say that mock interviews are one thing that one should take. And in mock interviews, the other person that who is taking your interview, he would be able to specifically tell you that these are the areas where you need to work upon. And these could be anything. For example, it might be that you are not able to convey your thoughts properly, or it might be that there is a particular part that you have not prepared properly, right? It might be that the LLD part is a little weak, or it might be that you have less ideas around draft questions. So it might be anything. So a person who's taking a mock interview, he would be able to tell you beforehand that these are the areas that you need to specifically work upon. So this is the part that I would definitely say that should be like, this is the part that should be revolving around the interview preparation phase, right? Perfect. Okay, apart from that, right. So now, what are the things that you can do which can help you during these tough times? So, for example, let's suppose you are in between jobs. Okay, you are going, like, you have just resigned from a position, and you are looking forward to another job. So, what are the things that you can do when you are in between jobs? So obviously, this is what you should prepare around. These are the things that you should have in your kitty. This is what you should prepare. Apart from this, there are mainly two things that I would recommend. First is, try to have an amazing resume. By amazing resume, I do not mean to say that you have to be like you have to be out of the world in everything. I'm just saying that by amazing resume, I mean that there should be one section, there should be one thing that draws attention. Okay, there should be one thing which an interview sees, and he says that, okay, I want to connect with this person. I think this is the person who would be able to solve this particular thing. For example, if you have just got out of the college, probably it could be competitive programming, right? If it has been 3-4 years in the industry, probably it could be the type of projects that you have worked upon. So try to put something in your resume. There should be one thing that draws attention, that should stand you out, or that should be one thing that should be impressive about you. Okay. The second thing that you need to do is that you need to increase the number of applications that we are putting out. So we need to make sure that the applications that we are putting forward are a little high, uh, because every time the problem that most of us face is that like we put ourselves in the preparation phase a lot more rather than putting ourselves to the interview phase. So make sure that you are applying at empty number of places, because there might be 10 no's that you might get, but you only require one yes, right? I don't want 10 yeses, or I don't want to have a plethora of offers. I just want one yes. So for that one yes, make sure that you are applying to companies. Like nowadays, there are so many companies, like Top Hire is one company, InstaHire is another. Then there is Hirist, then there is Hirect. There are so many companies that are there. There are so many job consultants that will help you, and they line up your interviews. So definitely make sure that you are putting your applications, and even you can directly contact companies. You can go to their career pages. You can apply to companies. You can even make a well layout, well thought out email. You can write a very good email, and you can put out to the people, and people will definitely reply. People will definitely suggest you what would be the best way out if they have the positions. So right, and apart from that, we of course have LinkedIn. We of course have referrals, right? So you can use any of these two things, LinkedIn or the plethora of companies that are now hiring, the plethora of consultants who are lining up interviews with the companies. So you can use any of these two things to get yourself out there. You give the interviews. Interviews also have their own learning curve. Okay, so every time it's not necessary that you would just have to you just have to prepare, and you have to be ready for the interviews, and you should be able to answer each and every question. Even if you're not able to answer one or two things, you would be selected. It's not that you have to be like crystal correct. You would be perfectly correct. You would be able to answer all the questions. So it's the approach that you take to solve a particular question, and always after each interview there would be some things that you will learn. Like for example, if you're not able to solve a particular query, you will get after the interview, you will go in the internet, you will try to search for that. What is the correct answer to this? And this is how you will slowly and steadily grow. I remember one of the learners at Scalar, he was able to get in one of the companies, but he kept going more and more interviews. With each interview, he was able to list few things that he wanted to learn, right? So with each unsuccessful interview also, he was able to list a few things that he wanted to learn, right? And like there was this one interview, there was this final interview that he was successful in getting into, and in that interview there were around 1,000 applicants, and out of that two were selected, and he was one of them. So it was not just preparation, it was a lot of unsuccessful interviews that he has given, and from each interview he had learned something. So that is also one way. So never shy of going for the interviews, right? So that is one thing that I would definitely recommend. And right, so this is all that I wanted to talk about, how to prepare for DSA interviews, right? What are the different topics that we have? So how to prepare for DSA? Okay, so in the problem solving part, in the interviews, there would be a section called problem solving, and in that problem solving, you will be asked questions. So majorly, these are the topics that we have. You have arrays, you have strings. Then in these parts, we have some patterns also. For example, two pointers is one pattern that you have. Similarly, sliding window is another pattern that is there in arrays and strings. Then we have topics like hashing. Then we have topics like 2D arrays, which can be probably said that they are part of arrays only. Recursion is one important topic that you must not skip. Then you have linked list, you have stacks, and you have queues. And in the hierarchical kind of data structures, you have trees, and you have tries, and you have priority queues. Then apart from that, I would say DP is one other topic that you should definitely work upon, and graphs is one other topic that you should definitely solve questions on. So I would definitely say that when you're preparing for your tech interviews, make sure that you go through at least 5 or 6 questions on each and every topic, right? With the help of those 5 and 6 questions, you would be able to understand how one data structure is better than the other data structure, how to do the time and space complexity analysis, how to weigh pros and cons of different data structures, okay, and how to apply in which algorithm we need to apply which data structure, okay. So over here, let's talk about hashing today. We had done a small poll and we can see that hashing is one topic, hashing is one thing that you want to talk about. Okay, so if I talk about hashing specifically, hashing is an hash map, right? So in hashing, we will call about hash map. So what is the best thing about hash map, or we can call it a hash set also? Okay, so the best thing about that is it's a data structure that is provided by us to right. So it's a data structure, and in this data structure, what we can see is that searching is very efficient. So if I talk about a hash map would look something like this. It's a two-column table. It has keys over here and it has values over here. Okay. Now keys are unique. So they are unique. And values could be anything that can be mapped with these unique values. So now over here, the basic functionalities that are given to you is one of the functionalities that is given to you is you can add a particular element, right? Like you can add a particular element to hash map. You can delete a record. You can delete a particular element from the hash map. The next thing that you have is the best thing that I like is that you are able to search in hash map, right? Irrespective of what is the size of the hash map, how much like irrespective of whatever is the size of the hash map, you would be able to search in order one, right? The average case would be to search order one, right? Delete also happens in order one. Add is also something that happens in order one. So that's the most beautiful thing that we have with hash maps, that we would be able to search through the entire records and we would be able to search through it in a time complexity of order one, right? It's same as accessing a particular element in the array, right? So if you want to access a particular element in the array, you don't have to go through the entire list. You can directly jump and you can directly go to that particular field. You can directly go to that particular element. Similarly, in the hash map also, if you want to search, it directly gives you the result. So that's why we say that the time complexity is order one. So today we want to take up a question on hashing that is regularly asked in interviews. Okay, so this question is longest consecutive sequence. The question that I want to take up is longest consecutive sequence, and this question is asked in many interviews. So it's one of the favorite questions that is asked by interviewers, and the best part is that they give you expected time and space complexity. They will give you target time and space complexity. So first, let me explain this question, and then I'll talk about in what time complexity, in what time you have to solve this question. Okay. So first of all, what we have to do is you are given an array of n integers over here. You are given an array with n integers. You have to find the longest consecutive sequence. You have to find that sequence which has the longest consecutive sequence. For example, let's suppose if you have 9 over here, 10 over here, then 1, let's suppose you have 2, let's suppose you have 3, then you have 5, then let's suppose 6, then you have 13, then you have 12, and let's suppose over here, let's keep somewhere 11 as well. Let's keep 11 as well over here. Okay. So over here, you can see a lot of consecutive sequences. For example, if I talk about one consecutive sequence is 1, 2, and 3. Starting from 1, you can see that there is a consecutive sequence of length 3. Then another consecutive sequence you can see which starts from 5. This sequence is of length 2. But what is the biggest consecutive sequence that we have? So biggest consecutive sequence that we have is starting from 9 and it is going all the way up till 13, and this length is 5. So over here we have to return the length of the longest consecutive sequence, and the answer to it is 5. So this is the question. You have to find and return the length of the longest consecutive sequence. So in such a question, so where do you see that hashing would be applied in such a question? How do you find that hashing as a data structure would be the most beneficial data structure to solve this problem. So over here we see that the values are very, I would say they are kept in random order, and we would have to basically see a sequence over here, right? Values are kept in random order. Over here we can see that 9 is over here, then we can see that 10 is over here, then 11 is over here, 12 is over here, 13 is there over here. There is no random order. So even if I want to search elements over here, so let's say that I am searching from 9. Then the next element that I have to search is 10, which is just ahead of it. But next element that I have to search is 11. So for that, I would have to iterate on the entire array. Like I have to search where is 11, right? If 11 is over here, then if I have to find 12, then it would be very difficult to find 12. Similarly, if I want to find 13, then it would be difficult to find 13. You would have to go through the entire list. You would have to go through the entire array to find the correct element. You have to find the next element. Okay. So searching needs to be efficient. So over here, which is the data structure which provides the most efficient searching? So the answer to this question is arrays. Sorry, the answer to that is hashing. Hash map is one data structure which provides you the most efficient searching, which is order one searching. So over here, we will apply and we will use the facilities and the functionalities that are provided by hash map. So to solve this question, what we will do is we will put all these elements in a hash map. So in first step, what we are going to do is we are going to put all elements in a hash map. Put all elements in hash map. So I'll create a hash map and I'll put all these elements in hash map. And hash map has two structures to it. Hash map has two structures to it. So they have two columns to it. The first column needs to have all the values unique, which is the key. And the second is value, which can have duplicate values. So over here, what I'm going to do is I am going to put all the elements in a hash map. And over here, the key is going to be array element. Array of I is going to be the key. And value is going to be a Boolean value. Okay. In the beginning, I am going to put false in front of all the values. So over here, how this structure is going to look like, I am going to say, I'm going to put all the values. For example, 11, 9, 10, then I'll put 1, 2, 3, then I'll put 5 and 6, then I'll put 13 and I'll put 12. And in front of all these values, in the beginning, I'll put false. Right? So I just want to make sure that all the elements are there in the hash map. And right now in the beginning, the value does not have any significance. So in front of them, everywhere I have written false. Right? Now, if I want to find the longest consecutive sequence, then where should I start from? What would be the most important element that I have? Where should my searching start from? Answer to that is starting element of each sequence. For example, one starting element is 1. So I should be interested in 1. After I have 1, then the sequence would be easy to propagate. I would be easily able to find 2. Then from 2, I'll easily be able to go to 3, right? So on and so forth. Okay. Right. I will quickly try to see. Right. Perfect. So starting element is the most important thing that we need to understand. Okay. Then after starting element, we would be able to find the complete sequence. So over here, what are the starting elements? One starting element would be 1. The other starting element that I have is 5. And other starting element that I have is 9. So for me, the point of interest, for me, the element of interest is the starting element. If I have the starting elements, I would be able to find the longest consecutive sequence. I just need to know what is the length of the sequence that is starting from 1. What is the length of the sequence that is starting with 5? What is the length of the sequence that is starting with 9? And this way, I would be able to tell you what is the longest sequence with respect to all the starting elements that I have. Okay. Perfect. So now let's try to find the starting elements. So how do you find a starting element? That's the first question. How do you find the starting element? Can I say that try searching for each and every element, right? Starting element would be that element which would not have array of I minus 1, which would not have its predecessor. Okay, so what is the starting element? So starting element would be that element which would not have its predecessor. So if you have 9, 9 is a starting element because you do not have 8 in the array, right? So first of all, what I'll do is I'll try to mark those elements which do not have its predecessor. I'll try to mark the starting elements. Okay, perfect. So now the second step would be to mark the starting elements. Okay, so mark starting elements. So let's say mark starting elements. So for marking starting elements, what you have to do is, let me take this hash map that we have created over here. The only thing that you have to do is, you have to specifically ask which are those elements which does not have its predecessor. Okay, so over here, if I talk about 11 has its predecessor, right? Then 9 does not have its predecessor, so I will mark it true, right? So I am marking something different in front of starting elements. Similarly, 10 has its predecessor, 9 is already there in the hash map. 1 does not have its predecessor, so this is a starting element. 2 has its predecessor, 3 has its predecessor, 5 does not have its predecessor, so this would be equal to true. Then 6, 13, 12, everybody has their predecessors, so I would say that these are the 3 starting elements that you have got, right? Then what I'll do is, the third step, I will start with each of these starting elements and I'll try to calculate what is the length of their sequence. What is the length of their sequence? That is what I'm going to do with that. Okay, so I am going to iterate once again. So first of all, I'm going to go to 11. I'll go to 11 first, right? Is there a point to start with 11? So 11 is not a starting element, so I will definitely not start with 11. 11 is not a starting element. Then I'll go to 9. Okay, 9 is a starting element. So from 9, I will try to find its sequence. Length of its sequence is equal to 1. From 9, I will move to 10. 10 is also there in the hash map. The length is going to become 2. From 10, I'll move on to 11. 11 is also there in the sequence. So I will increase the size of the sequence further. From 11, I'll move on to 12. From 12, since 12 is also there in the sequence, I'll increase the length. From 12, I'll move on to 13. 13 is also there in the sequence. I'll increase the size of the sequence to 5. So over here, I can see 13 is there. So the length has been increased to 5. Now I'll say 14. Is 14 there in the sequence? 14 is not there in the sequence. So the longest sequence that can be formed by starting with 9 is 5. And we can take an overall maximum as well. So this is bigger than the overall maximum. So I can keep 5 as the maximum so far. Okay. Then we'll try to start with 10. Right? 10 is not a starting element. So we will definitely not start any sequence from 10. Then the next element is 1. 1 is a starting element. So we'll make a sequence from 1. 1 is also there, 2 is also there, 3 is also there, 4 is not there. So starting from 1, the longest sequence that can be formed is of length 3, right? But it will not beat the overall maximum. This will not beat the overall maximum. So that's why what we can see is that 1 has a sequence of length 3, but it is not the biggest sequence. Then we'll try with 2. 2 is definitely not a starting element, so we will ignore it. 3 is also not a starting element, we will ignore it. Then we'll find 5. 5 is a starting sequence, so we'll start with 5. From 5, we'll move on to 6. From 6, we'll move on to 7. 7 is the place where we stop. So the length of the longest consecutive sequence starting from 5 is going to be of length 2. But 2 is not the maximum length. So starting with 5, the maximum length is going to be 2. And it is not the maximum length. Perfect. So we will move ahead. Then the next element is going to be 6, which is not a starting element. So we'll ignore it. Next element is 13. It is not a starting element. We'll ignore it. 12 is not a starting element. We will ignore it as well. Right? So over here, this is how you are going to write the code. This is how you are going to work on this problem. Right? First of all, you have to put all these elements in a hash map. Then you have to mark all the starting elements. You have to mark all the starting elements. After putting all these elements in a hash map, mark starting elements. Make sure that you change the value corresponding to starting elements. Then focus only on the starting elements. From the starting elements, try to find what is the length of their sequence. Okay, once you find length of sequence of each and every element, what we can do is we can find maximum out of them. Right? So this is how you will solve this question. This is how you will find the overall maximum out of all the sequences. Now comes the most important part, which is to discuss time and space complexity of this approach. See, we have taken an extra hash map. So definitely we have taken an extra space. We have put all the n elements of the array in an extra hash map. So definitely we are going to take space of order n. What about time complexity? In time complexity, let's see each and every element. So in the first step, over here, can I say that over here, you have put all the elements in a hash map? So n iterations would be there to put all these elements in a hash map, right? If you want to mark each and every element, the only question that you have to ask is that you are standing on array of I. Is your predecessor there or not? Is the predecessor in the hash map or not? So you are searching array of I minus 1. Searching is order 1. So you are doing this operation for each and every element. So there would be n iterations in this also. In the first step, there were n iterations. In this step also, you would have n iterations. Okay. In the third and last step, this is the most interesting step. You are iterating over each and every element. Okay. How many times? What is the maximum number of times you are iterating over an element? If I talk about 13, okay. So how many times you have iterated over 13? Can I say that you have iterated over 13 two times? One when it was visited by 9, right? And one when it was visited by the external loop. If I talk about 11, how many times you have iterated over 11? One when it was visited by external loop, and one when it was visited by the sequence of 9. So can I say each and every element is visited two times? Can I say each and every element is visited at max two times? So definitely I can say over here the number of iterations are going to be 2n. So over here I can say the total number of iterations would be n for the first step, n for the second step, and 2n for the last step. Total number of iterations are going to be 4n, and the time complexity is going to be order n. Over here it should not be I minus 1, it should be array of I minus 1. Yes, you should search. If you are standing at array of I, you should search for array of I minus 1. Right? So this is how you would solve this question. Right? So over here you can see that you have got a very good time complexity of big O of n. Although you have utilized an extra space of n, but you were able to get a very good time complexity of order n. Right? So even for the worst case also, user with the username enter.net infinity, even for the worst case also, the time complexity would be order n. Right? For example, I can take your case as well. So if we talk about this case, okay, In this case, 1 is going to start and it is going to iterate on each of the elements. Okay, the length of the longest sequence for 1 is going to be 10. Right? We are going to stop at 11. We are going to stop at 11. So 1 is going to iterate on all these elements internally. Right? A list that is starting from 1 is going to iterate on all the elements internally. But how many times we are going to iterate on each element? So over here, we are going to iterate on 1 2 times, 2 also we are iterating 2 times, 3 also we are iterating 2 times. We will iterate on these elements externally and we are iterating on these elements internally. See, right? We are not going to go in the internal loop for these elements. We are going to go in the internal loop only for the starting element, and only this is the starting element. So in the worst case also, we are going to iterate on each and every element only 2 times. So therefore, the time complexity would be 2n. Okay, so Najmul is asking that I have learned Flutter framework. I have already learned that. I have published 3 apps on Play Store. I am trying to solve problems on lead code to get hired by well-known companies, but how to start approach to get hired? So I've already told you that start giving out your resumes, reach out to companies. Like there would be Hirect. You should go to Hirect. There is Hirist, then there is Top Hire, there is Insta Hire. There are IM jobs. There is Naukri, and of course we have the usual suspect. We have LinkedIn. So use any of these 7 8 sources that you have. Apart from that, there are a lot of such places also. Like for example, there is one place which is called remoteok.com. You can go to that place, and over here you will be able to get only remote jobs. So definitely Najmul, that is also one place where you can go, and you would be able to see that there are companies which are hiring specifically for Flutter framework also. Okay, so that is one thing that you can do. And definitely, if I talk about the companies which are hiring on Flutter framework, you would be able to show your apps, and you would definitely be able to go past the selection criteria, and you would be able to land on the job. Okay, perfect. Another question that we have is asked by Tushar. Tushar is saying that I am facing issues that almost all the companies are asking whether I have Java experience. I have 4+ years of experience, and I'm working on Python for the past 3 years. Right? How to tackle it? See, rather than like fighting with the companies, like to basically get into Java, like you should focus on the companies which are asking for Python. Right? You have a huge umbrella. Like you have worked on Java, right? You have probably worked on Java a little bit, I think. No, you are saying that you have an experience of 4+ years, and for the past 3 years you are working on Python. So definitely there are companies which are asking for Python skills as well, right? So you should hone more. You should hone more of your Python skills. You should start solving problems on Python. You should start building projects on Python, right? You should do all your learning around Python. Given that you have your strength areas, your strength area is your Python skills, right? And you should only apply for companies who are asking for Python developers, right? So I think you are not applying to enough number of companies. That is one thing that I might say, because there are companies that they need Python people as well. And there are plethora of companies which hire people just on the basis of their problem solving skills, just on the basis of their design skills, which take language agnostic interviews, which do not keep this barrier of hiring on a particular language. So you should search more, you should make efforts more, you should start applying more. The number of applications that you are making, they should go high, and you would be able to go past this problem, right? So, right, so this is one thing that I wanted to talk about, right? Okay, one last question that we have is from a user with the username enter.net infinity. So he's saying that all the elements that we have talked about, they in the problem solving question, all the elements that we have over here, these are starting elements. No, these are not starting elements. Starting element is that element for which predecessor element is not present. So definitely for 1, we do not have 0. Okay. But for 2, we have 1. For 3, we have 2. For 4, we have 3. So therefore, like, these are not the starting elements. There is only one starting element over here, which is 1. I hope that answers your question. Right. Rituraj has a question. Rituraj is asking, do we need to have a good CP profile or DSA? Is it enough for interviews? See, as I told you about that, if somebody is coming, like if resume is coming to me, I have to answer this question, right? I have to basically, I would be searching for one skill, right? For that, I would like to connect with that person. So if somebody is giving me a resume, I will just go through it. I'll scan the entire resume and I'll try to see that one thing that will draw my attention, that would basically make me say that let's connect with this person. This person would be helpful, useful for us. So Rituraj, definitely, if you are looking for DSA as one of that thing that will make you stand out. So definitely having a good CP profile, having a good DSA profile is definitely going to help. Like for example, if on lead code you are regular, or if you are giving regular interviews, regular contests on Code Chef or on Code Forces, then definitely this is going to help you, right? So you should have that one part which can make you stand out. And definitely CP or DSA could be one talking point, it could be one such point, because most of the companies, big corporates, focus on problem solving skills, and this is the best indicator for problem solving skills. If somebody is very good at DSA, is very good at data structure and algorithms, he would have a good competitive programming profile. So this is definitely one thing that you can try out. Okay, right. Okay, so right, to talk about on hiring freeze that is happening in Meta and Amazon these days. So there is definitely, I would say, recession is around the corner. Definitely, there is a recession that might happen, but that recession is something that would happen in US, right? So that's why these companies are putting on a hiring freeze. They are going on a hiring freeze, right? For most of the companies that are based out of India, they don't have to worry that much. But this is something that is true for US based companies. Now, being said that, you would not have to worry much about this part if you have your skills in place, right? I said that you have to worry on only on two things. One is you have to make sure your preparation is top notch. The second thing that I talked about is that you should focus on giving more and more number of interviews, and you should try to make sure you have an amazing resume. You should have one thing that makes you stand out. So if you have all your checkbox checked, if you have all your things marked out, so then you would be easily able to go through that phase of getting a new job, right? Even if you come across this part where even if you come across that part where you are where you do not have a job, so going to that place, going a new job would not be that difficult. Okay, if you are correctly skilled, and if you work upon all these things that I've talked about, you make sure that you work on your DSA design skills, and make sure that you have your projects at your back of your hand. So these things you should have at your back of your hand, and you would be able to do great with your job search, with your job hunt. Okay, right. That was all that I wanted to add. Okay, right. So there is a person with the username Digital Tech, and he is saying that I have done my MCA from a tier 3 college in 2019. uh, till now I was into business. Now I've started learning Java DSA from a paid platform. Can I have any chance to get into hiring? Can I get into the mainstream tech industry without having any prior experience? Definitely, you can do that. It's not a something. It's not something to be worried about. I've seen people who have come from different streams of education as well. I've seen people from BSc Physics. I've seen people from BA, and they have done paid courses, and they have been able to get into companies. Like they have been able to get it at startup companies at Bangalore, and I've seen such people. I've seen people transitioning. So it's just that you have to if you are very good with DSA, if you have done Java DSA, then the next thing that you should work upon is probably you should create some projects, right? So having some projects under your belt, then you would be ready to give interviews at both the places. Your problem solving skills are ready and your projects are ready. So at both the places, corporates would be needed, would be testing your problem solving skills more, and the startups would be testing your web development skills more. So the only thing that you have to work upon now, you have to create some projects, right? So I would say have some projects and then start giving out interviews. You can definitely get into good companies.